Let me read to you a passage from the 9th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 18 to 26. It's the Gospel for Monday of the 14th week in Ordinary Time. St. Matthew writes, "While Jesus was saying this, a ruler came and knelt before him and said, 'My daughter has just died, but come and put your hand on her, and she will live.' Jesus got up and went with him, and so did his disciples. Just then, a woman who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years came up behind him and touched the edge of his cloak. She said to herself, 'If only I touch his cloak, I will be healed.' Jesus turned and saw her. 'Take heart, daughter,' he said, 'your faith has healed you.' And the woman was healed from that moment. When Jesus entered the ruler's house and saw the flute players and the noisy crowd, he said, 'Go away. The girl is not dead, but asleep.' But they laughed at him. After the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took the girl by the hand, and she got up. News of this spread through all that region." That's from Matthew chapter 9, verses 18 to 26. Speaking to us of the divine power of Jesus Christ. Our Gospel scene today is reported by each of the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark and Luke. Matthew covers the event in 9 verses. There are considerable differences between Matthew's account and that given by Mark and Luke. Mark gives to the event 22 verses, nearly 3 times the space of Matthew, nearly. Luke gives it 17 verses, more than twice the length. In both Mark and Luke, we are given more information about the man who approaches Jesus. He is a leader of the synagogue, and his name is Jairus. In Matthew's brief account, all we are told is that the man is a certain ruler, without the further details about him. In Matthew, the ruler approaches Jesus about his daughter, while in Mark, chapter 5, verse 22 to 43, it is from the outset a little daughter. In Luke, chapter 8, verses 41 to 56, we are given even more details about the daughter. The man tells Jesus that he had only one daughter, about 12 years of age, and she lay dying. One minor difference is also that in both Mark and Luke, Jairus falls at the feet of Jesus, whereas in Matthew, the ruler worshipped him. There is one notable difference between Matthew and both Mark and Luke, and it is that in Mark and Luke, Jairus tells Jesus that his little daughter lies at the point of death, and asks that he come and heal her so that she may live. Jesus rises to follow him to his house, and on the way there is the healing of the woman who had an illness of blood flow. At that point, news arrives of the death of Jairus' daughter. But in Matthew's account, the ruler tells Jesus that his daughter just now died, and asks that our Lord come and lay his hand upon her that she might live. In Matthew's account, there is of course no news reaching our Lord after the healing of the woman on the way that the girl has died. All up, it seems that both Mark and Luke had more information about the event than did Matthew. Perhaps Matthew was not an eyewitness himself. It is interesting to notice that in Matthew's account, his own call, Matthew chapter 9 verse 9, was not long before this event, chapter 9 verse 18 to 25. Perhaps Matthew was not in tow on this occasion, and was recalling what he had heard, whereas both Mark and Luke may be reporting the account of the eyewitnesses to the event, Peter, James and John. We do not know. What is clear in Matthew's account is the simple and plain exercise of extraordinary power by Jesus Christ. The emphasis from the outset of the scene is on his divine power to grant life and health. Christ departs from where he was, following the ruler and destined to bring back to life his daughter, whom, we read a little later, is, without learning her age, a maid or a girl. He arrives to the mourning and dirge of those present in the house of the recently deceased and asks them to go. Their lamentation is not in order. For the girl is not dead, but asleep, he says. When the people had been put out, and one wonders what they thought of the proceeding, he simply went in, took her by the hand, and she arose. The details of Mark and Luke are not given: the presence of Peter, James and John, the presence of both father and mother, the words our Lord used, Talitha cum, as in Mark, and our Lord ordering something to be given her to eat. In Matthew, we have the essentials of Christ's exercise of divine power, simply exercised without public fanfare. While Mark and Luke mention that Christ told the parents that they were to tell no one of it, Matthew tells us that the report of this went forth through the whole of that region. In all this, we have mentioned only the story as it touched the daughter of the ruler. There was also on the way to the house, of course, the woman healed of her 12-year infirmity of internal bleeding. Matthew's account is simple and direct. The woman came behind him, touched the hem of his garment with faith in the power of anything directly associated with the person of Jesus Christ, and she was healed forthwith. Christ turned, and when he saw her, immediately commended her for her faith, assuring her that it was this that made her whole, and the healing, Matthew tells us, was permanent. So then, apart from the narration of Christ's great power, we have the description of the faith of those who approached him. The ruler had faith in his complete power, as did the woman, and both were rewarded to the full. It is a typical event in the public ministry of our Lord, with the same straightforward lesson for all of us. Let us contemplate the person of Jesus Christ. He is unique in history, our Lord and our God. The fullness of the divinity is found in his person. He is not only man, but the living God, God the Son become man, and showing the compassion of God for each one of us. God reveals his infinite power in his mercy. Let us place our faith in the divine mercy then. This is surely the great lesson of today's gospel scene, a lesson to be learnt day by day over the years of life. Your faith has made you whole, our Lord said to the woman. Let us take those words to heart.